10 years ago, I splattered paint on a t-shirt. In 2020, I've been fired, publicly shamed, threatened, and deplatformed for saying, I stand with J.K. Rowling, and woman equals adult human female. Cancel culture is silencing women. Use your voice while you still can. If you heard about a movement that staged book burnings, hanged and burned opponents in effigy, threatened them with rape, blacklisted them from any gainful employment, and attempted to ban their speech from any forum, would you think this movement was on the right side of history?
Also, a martini, what is a martini but an excuse to drink a glass of gin?
Hi, my name's Vanessa Vokey, and I'm a radical feminist, or an exclusionary feminist. And today I'm going to be reacting to ContraPoints' video about J.K. Rowling. Now, in researching this video, I happened upon a pretty funny website called the Harry Potter Witch Hunt, a compository of a bunch of anti-Potter events and pro-censorship arguments that were made in the early 2000s when the Harry Potter books became popular. Rural Pennsylvania, 2001. A church in rural Pennsylvania held a book burning of the Harry Potter books along with other supposedly offensive material. I guess the reason I bring this up is to say that this isn't the first time J.K. Rowling has been the victim of a witch hunt.
Heard that all Joanne did was say biological sex is real.
And now crazy gender ideologues and trans activists are trying to silence her.
They're not just trying to silence her, they're sending her death and rape threats daily. Ken Howard, a social worker, therapist, and professor at the University of Southern California's Suzanne Dworak Peck School of Social Work, promoting sexual violence against J.K. Rowling on Facebook after Rowling said being a woman is a biological reality that comes with lived consequences for those born female. I'm bringing this up to show that Harry Potter book burnings used to be done by the religious right, and now they're being done by the religious left. Mermaids shamelessly accused J.K. Rowling of driving kids to suicide, claiming, "We are aware of self-harm and even attempted suicide following J.K. Rowling's statements. This is an outrageous and unsubstantiated allegation and a tyrannical weaponization of suicide." Another example of coercive control. I brought this up because it reminds me so much of this post I found on that Harry Potter witch hunt website, which reads, J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter series, is a witch and is in league with Lucifer himself. She is a lunatic and a freak straight out of the pits of hell and should be in prison for crimes against the innocent and child abuse. For every child that reads one of her filthy books is just another abuse victim. She may as well be loading a gun and placing it in the child's hand and asking them to put it in their mouth and pull the trigger.
This is cancel culture gone too far. This is a witch hunt.
A witch hunt. A search for and subsequent persecution of a supposed witch. The symbol of the witch has endured over centuries as a representation of female empowerment. As the outsider with uncanny power, the witch represents a challenge to patriarchal narratives. The witch's omnipresence in literature, cinema, and pop culture reflects the depth of Western society's obsession. The rise of male-centric Christianity in Europe in the Middle Ages, along with the growth of early capitalism, meant that powerful women became demonized. The word witch officially became a pejorative term around 1468 when German churchman Heinrich Kramer published Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer for Witches, a medieval treatise on how to hunt witches, women who were deemed to be morally corrupt. The publication of this book, which coincided with a general sentiment of fear, spurred the heyday of the witch hunt.
Trans women are women. Got the sense of persecution.
In Europe, between 1500 and 1660, local governments murdered up to 80,000 women thought to be witches.
As if I didn't start taking female hormones because I'm acutely aware that my body is not the same as a cis woman's body.
Don't say cis woman when you just mean female. You know your body's not female, and you know it never will be, no matter how many hormones you take.
That sex is real.
If you know sex is real, then why do you keep lying and saying you're a woman, when a woman is an adult human female, not a gender identity?
I don't really feel the need to have a second X chromosome. I get by with one.
Do you? The Y chromosome may be a symbol of masculinity, but it's becoming increasingly clear that it's anything but strong and enduring. Although it carries the master switch gene, SRY, that determines whether an embryo will develop as male, XY, or female, XX, it contains very few other genes and is the only chromosome not necessary for life. Women, after all, manage just fine without one.
I actually like the Y chromosome. I think it's a little more dainty, you know? It's a little softer, a little more petite.
Those are all just cute euphemisms to distract from the fact that it's actually shriveled and weak and degenerating. Unlike all other chromosomes, which we have 2 copies of in each of our cells, Y chromosomes are only ever present as a single copy, passed from fathers to their sons. This means that genes on the Y chromosome cannot undergo genetic recombination, the shuffling of genes that occurs in each generation, which helps to eliminate damaging gene mutations. Deprived of the benefits of recombination, Y chromosomal genes degenerate over time and are eventually lost from the genome. In case you needed more proof about how male Nathan is, here he is talking about the Silence of the Lambs.
Bill, an animal lover and innovative seamstress, Buffalo Bill is a transtrender. A transtrender! Who kills women to make a suit out of their skin because his application for sex reassignment was rejected.
I just watched that movie, The Silence of the Lambs. I thought it was pretty good. I did feel bad for Buffalo Bill, though. Think about it. She's a poor trans girl trying to make it in the world. She gets this psychiatrist, Hannibal Lecter, some cis dude, right? And he tells her she thinks she's a transsexual, but isn't actually one. Screw you, Hannibal, all right? You don't get to tell that creepy little serial killer who she is, all right? Yeah, people are too mean to Buffalo. Yeah, I'm not saying that I endorse skinning cis girls to build a woman suit.
But I get it, right?
Yeah. Girl wants smooth skin.
I wanted to kill cis girls for way less than that.
No problem.
There's so much gatekeeping of trans people. I just want to use this opportunity to reassure my trans audience that
Even if you've only killed 1 or 2 people, you're valid. I entertain myself.
even if you've only killed 1 or 2 people,
You're valid. You're valid. You're valid.
is bigot a slur used to silence the females?
Well, yeah, obviously it is.
I'm not. How can you tell me I'm not a transgender? No, you're not. Don't tell me I'm not a transgender, because I am a transgender.
Those women would be called transphobic bigots just for not wanting that man to walk into their bathroom and drop his trousers and start pissing in the toilet with the door wide open. Being called bigots and transphobes for having a problem with that.
And on the other front, by trans women who, we're told,
Are slurring as bigots.
lesbians who won't sleep with them.
Regardless of how many times we say no, regardless of how many times we put up our boundaries, you try to guilt us and make us feel shame for standing up for ourselves. Yes, bigot is a slur used to silence the females. So many lesbians are saying this that they've started a completely different movement. Here's some info about Get the L Out. We stand against any kind of misogynistic politics and systems that prioritize men's interests. Queer politics, transgenderism, right-wing politics, left-wing politics, patriarchal religious institutions, men's rights activism, racism, and capitalism.
Magdalene Byrne.
Magdalene Burns
Ain't a break dancer, show my ass to the world, never pull my pants up.
is the turf queen on YouTube.
Exactly, bro.
About whom Joanne says,
Magdalene was an immensely brave young feminist and lesbian. Magdalene was a great believer in the importance of biological sex and didn't believe lesbians should be called bigots for not dating trans women with penises.
I'm actually really glad that you put Magdalene in your video, because hopefully more people will go and watch her channel, where she eviscerates gender ideology.
are you sure she hasn't said anything else about trans women that might lead people to think she's less than hugely sympathetic?
You are fucking blackface actors. You aren't women. You're men who get sexual kicks from being treated like women. Fuck you and your dirty fucking perversions. Our oppression isn't a fetish. You pathetic, sick fuck.
Why is it socially acceptable for men to put on dresses, makeup, and high heels and act out every offensive stereotype, bitchy, catty, dumb, slutty, etc., but it is not socially acceptable for a white person to put on blackface and act out offensive stereotypes of African Americans? Shouldn't both be okay or neither? There are similarities between blackface and drag. They're both one group posing as another group.
The most important point that he didn't add is that it's not just one group imitating another group, it's the oppressor imitating the oppressed class.
They both rely on exaggerated stereotypes, and they're both over-the-top caricatures. Nobody looks at a drag queen and thinks, oh yeah, that's what real women are actually like. I'm saying that drag is not demeaning to women, but maybe you shouldn't completely take my word for it, because I'm not a woman.
Duly noted. As for Magdalene, she died of a brain tumor. So, why do you think that you deserve her sympathy, first of all? Second of all, why do you think you deserve any of our sympathy? Listen to him complain about how mean TERFs are to him.
They dead name and misgender you?
Don't disrespect your mother by saying that the name she gave you, Nathan, is offensive. We're not misgendering you. You are a man. Calling you a man is not an act of violence.
They mock your genitals?
Saying you can't be a lesbian and also have a penis is not mocking genitals, Nathan.
They describe your surgery results as necrotic mutilated wounds?
To be fair, we don't describe it that way. The people who had the botched surgery results describe it that way, and we're just reiterating what they said. If you don't believe me, go to the website and read them yourself. It's not safe for life.
They interpret your every feeling and experience as the manifestation of a sick, woman-hating fetish.
You know, I am in a very different situation than most trans people.
You're rich. You're also in a better position than most females in the world. I used to be dysphoric about my M-shaped hairline, which I always covered with some tendrils. Now, the grafts are grown in enough that I finally feel I can pull my hair back. You know, I think women dying of starvation all over the world would love a bit of your hair graft money, Nathan. And little girls who aren't allowed to go to school because they're on their period. But at least Nathan got his facial feminization surgery. I hope that alleviated his dysphoria.
I have a lot of other things
going for me in this world.
But I realize that at this point, you're being
constantly love-bombed.
Love bombing? That's a cult technique. Projection much? Lynn Meager has 2 adult children who identify as transgender. A lot of these kids have concurrent mental health issues, and they find a place to fit in because as soon as you say you're trans, you get love bombed. You get love bombed online, you get love bombed at school, and as soon as you say you're trans, you turn into a star. And kids are thirsty for that kind of attention.
for you to use your fame and influence to rally the backlash against trans acceptance.
That's not what she's doing. What she's doing is rallying the backlash against men taking up women's rights and women's spaces. And you hate women. That's why you are arguing against that. You want to replace us. You think you're entitled to our spaces. You think you're better at being a woman than us. And you disgust me. Here are some of the rights that Nathan wants to take away from little girls and women all over the world. Removing the legal right of women to organize politically against sex-based oppression by males. Removing the legal right of women to assemble outside the presence of men. Removing the legal right of women to educational programs created for women outside the presence of men. Eliminating data collection of sex-based inequalities in areas where females are underrepresented. Elimination of sex-based crime statistics. Eliminating athletic programs and sports competition for women and girls. Removing the legal right of women to be free from the presence of men in areas of public accommodation where nudity occurs. Elimination of grants, scholarships, board and trustee designations, representative positions, and affirmative programs for women. Removal of the legal right of women to create reproductive clinics, rape crisis centers, support groups, or any other organizations for females. Eliminating media and all public discourse specific to females. Removal of the right of journalists to report the sex and history of subjects. Eliminating the legal right of lesbians to congregate publicly. Elimination of lesbian-specific organizations and advocacy groups. Removing the legal right of women to free speech related to sex roles and gender. Elimination of the legal right of women to protection from state-enforced sex roles, appearance, behavior, and thought. Elimination of the legal right of girls to protection from state-enforced sex roles in public education. Elimination of the patient right of dependent females to hospital and facility bed assignments separate from males. Elimination of the right of dependent females to prefer female providers for their intimate personal care requirements. Elimination of the human right of female prisoners under state confinement to be housed separately from male prisoners. Unlike any other social justice movement in history, the contemporary push for transgender rights, as it is currently being played out, are unique in that they are based on eliminating the sex-based rights and protections of women and girls. And I'll leave you with the narcissist prayer. I don't know who wrote this. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it.